Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing? Do you remember when I used to sing, good morning to you, you live in a shoe? Well, I can sing that this morning because it is truly this morning. It is 7:19 a.m. on Friday, and this is Thursday's vlog. But I slept through the entire night, and I am wide awake. I woke up and Alex doesn't have to get up till like 9:30 today. And he woke up and he was like, did you sleep through the night? And I said, I slept through the whole night and it was amazing. We went to dinner last night at Cheesecake Factory when he got off work. And we came home and he was like, I'm going right to bed. And I said, okay. And so I went upstairs and I got into bed with Boo. And then I heard the TV come on downstairs and I shouted down and I said, I thought you were going to bed. And he was like, I'm going to watch one episode of my show. I think he was watching that Mexican Dynasty show. And he said, then I'll be up there. And the next thing I know, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I woke up and the dogs had to go outside. So I got up and he was asleep. And I took the dogs out. I don't even remember him coming up to bed. I mean, I was out like a light. And I took the dogs outside and then I came back upstairs and I was like, I'm gonna lay down for 20 more minutes. And I woke up and it was 7 o'clock. So I slept like 9 hours already and it was fantastic. I feel so rested. It's raining out this morning. I'm behind a school bus right now. Which means going really slow because school buses always go slow. And I got a glass of water because I just chug water when I get up in the morning. I'm always so thirsty. Oh, there's a school bus behind me as well. Anyway, yesterday was a good day. Just a really laid back, fun day. I'm gonna have to kind of remember what I was doing yesterday now. I got up and what did I do yesterday? Got my coffee and did a bunch of stuff around the house that I had to get done. And then I had to go pick up my medicine. So I did that. And then I feel like I did something. I had to do something yesterday afternoon. I can't remember what it was now though. And then I came home. Oh, I had stopped at Starbucks to get these drinks that I wanted to review. Not at Starbucks. I stopped at the gas station to get these 2 Starbucks drinks that I wanted to review on my review channel. They're these cold brew drinks. So if you haven't seen my review, go over to my review channel and check it out. And by the way, I was just before I started vlogging and I came out tonight, I was because I let the dogs out again, I was reading all of my comments from the vlog yesterday and stuff, and Winchester girl, hey, and somebody else were like, I saw you in Amelia Fart's video today, I couldn't believe it, and yeah, that was really, that was one thing that happened yesterday. So when I was in LA, and if you didn't know, I did interviews with, they weren't really interviews, they were kind of just sit down conversations with Amelia Fart and Trisha Paytas, and it was fun. And so when I was with Amelia, she filmed this thing where she asked me questions, and then she said, I'm doing this video where I'm gonna ask YouTubers what they think of me. And she's like, well, I'm out here, and then I'm gonna put it all together. And so she put that video up yesterday, and it was really cute. Yeah, that was fun. And then so I don't even know what I was saying now. But anyway, so yeah, I came home and I was going outside to film my video, and my neighbor was outside. She's so sweet. We have such a good time with her as a neighbor. And she was reading on her patio and talking on the phone. So I looked at her and I was she kind of was just stopped talking on the phone, and I said I was gonna film a video. I said, but I don't want to bother you. And she goes, oh no, I'm gonna be off the phone in a second anyway. way. She was like, don't worry about it. And she like kind of walked down to the end of her patio, and I was like, oh, okay. And she has like a really long patio. And so then I like went inside and I like got my stuff that I had to get to make the video. And when I came back out, she had like walked around to like come and talk to me. And so we were sitting there talking for a second. I was like, do you want to be in the video with me? And she was like, yeah. She was like, that would be fun. She's so fun. She's like real artsy. She's like, she does like, she blows like glass. Like she does like this glass stuff. And she makes like coasters and all this different kind of art, like really pretty art. And it is really pouring down rain. I'm like driving this different way because for some reason I woke up this morning and I was like thinking of my mom and my aunt. And there's this bakery right by our house called Taylor's Bakery. And it's where, like back in the day when I joke about my aunt always telling my mom that she had to bring the rolls for holidays. It's where they, like the rolls had to come from Taylor's Bakery. But they have the best donuts in the entire world. And I'm kind of like craving a donut this morning. They have these cinnamon donuts. I just want one. So I'm thinking about going in there when I'm done vlogging. But I wanted to see if they were open. This won't be a real long vlog today because I'm going to go back and either start getting my video stuff done right away, or I'm going to go back to bed for an hour until Alex leaves for work, probably, because I don't want to try to film while he's asleep. But anyway, so she came over and she filmed the video with me. And then her roommate was doing and I hadn't met him yet, a really nice guy. I guess like she met him through her boyfriend or something, but anyway, he was doing an open mic. They're like real artsy and different, and it's so funny because they kind of remind me a lot of me and my friends when I was like her age. I think she's like 24, 25, and so like he was like playing guitar outside, and he was like, can I play a song for you guys? I'm really nervous. And she was like, yeah. And I was telling him, I was like, are you nervous to play? And he was like, yeah. And I said, yeah, I get really bad social anxiety. And he was like, well, what do you do? And I go, okay, so this is a funny trick that somebody taught me. I said, but I remember the very like first lead I gave in recovery, and that's like when you get up and you tell your story. And I was really, really nervous. Well, this is the first lead that I gave after I came back into the room. So this would have been about 6 or 7 years ago. I was really nervous about getting up, and I hadn't, you know, like, I just was terrified. And so somebody had told me, like, think of somebody that inspires you, that is confident, and do what they do, like, to prepare, right? And this is, you guys, like, completely true story, legit. Like, this is what I did to get ready. And it worked. It really helped. And so I was sitting there and I was like, who's somebody that I think is really confident? And for some reason, I thought of Naomi Campbell, the model. And so I turned on this dance music and I was like walking runway in my bedroom, getting ready to go and do this like speaker lead. But anyway, it helped. I like channeled being a supermodel for a second. It was interesting when I was watching that Kevin Aquan documentary because all of those supermodels from back in the day, like Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista, Christy Turlington, they were all in that. Naomi Campbell, they were all in that. And it was kind of cool to see them. Because they were like a big deal in my youth. Like, people talked a lot about them. They were everywhere in all the music videos. Do you guys remember that? They were like in all those George Michael videos. But anyway, so he played a song for us, and then her friend came over, and we just hung out and talked. It was really fun. It was a really fun day. It was 70 degrees in Indianapolis today, you guys. And it was absolutely amazing outside. It was grayish. It wasn't like real super pretty, but oh my God, is Taylor's Bakery open? I'm not gonna go in yet. I'm gonna wait until my vlog is done, if it's open. I think the sign says open. Yeah, somebody's walking out. Oh my God, I love Taylor's Bakery. God, you guys, they have like all of these St. Patrick's Day cakes in the window. They are open. Aww. There's like dads in there with their kids picking out like donuts and cookies and stuff. They have like a lot of like, these are the cakes they have. They have like all these cakes in the window. They have like 10 St. Patrick's Day cakes. Then they have a football cake, First Holy Communion cake, baptism cakes. Their cakes are so good. They use like this buttercream dressing. Let me go there when my vlog is done. Get a donut. Eat that donut and think about my mom and my aunt this morning. So yeah, that was my day, and then I filmed videos. I had such a fun time filming my Peter Monn video, and I did this whole thing about scrunchies on there. So I borrowed these scrunchies from Laura, my neighbor, and people really liked her on the review video. They were like the comments were really nice about her on there. She's so fun. So anyway, she's reading Toni Morris's Beloved, and we were talking about it. She's like, I love Toni Morrison. I was telling her that I had taken a whole class on Toni Morrison when I was in college, and we just sat out there and talked about Toni Morrison and drank the coffees that were left over, and I ended up giving her like 1.5 the bottle. I was like, this is not the kind of coffee that I love. Do you want this? She was like, yeah. That was after I'd taken some sips of it. So, but anyway, it was fun. It was a nice day. And then Alex worked late, and I had been uploading my videos. And so when he came home, he was like gonna stop and get something to eat on his way home. And I was like, well, do you want to go get something to eat? I said, I haven't eaten today. And he was like, yeah, where do you want to go? And I said, why don't we go to Cheesecake Factory? So we went to Cheesecake Factory, and it was funny because the woman in there was like, were you guys just in here like 2 days ago? I was like, yeah, we were literally in here 2 days ago or 3 days ago, whenever it was. And we had a really fun waitress, and so yeah, it was nice. We had a nice little date. We just sat there and talked about stuff, and he was telling me about his day, and I was telling him about my day, and this is such kind of like a pretty time in the morning. You know, it's interesting, like, I don't know that I would love 7:30 in the morning if I was going into work like back in the day. So for all of you out there that are watching this at 7:30 in the morning, going back to work, I feel for you. But like being up and not having to go into work, it's flooding again everywhere. It kind of like, I don't know, it just feels like calm and relaxing and nice outside. I wonder what time school starts, because all the school buses are out, but doesn't school start before 7:30? I felt like it started at like 7:10, or does it start at like 8:10 or something? Chick-fil-A is absolutely packed. Chick-fil-A has one of the best breakfasts in the entire world. When I wasn't a vegetarian, I used to go through there and eat all the time. I loved it. I listened to a lot of my audiobook yesterday too for the book club. I need to call Mel. Mel, if you're watching this, I know I need to call you so bad. I'm so sorry. I have been listening to a lot of my audiobook. It's really interesting. And I started yesterday looking up like pictures of Dennis Rader. So somebody asked what was the book I was talking about that was about South Padre Island. It's not about South Padre Island. It's just a part of the book, but it's the daughter of a serial killer by Carrie Rollins, who is the daughter of Dennis Rader, who is the BTK killer. And it's a book about, it's really not a book about Dennis Rader. It's really a book about her finding out that her dad was a serial killer. But then it goes back and it talks about like her whole childhood and growing up and everything. And I'm about a third of the way through, maybe a half of the way through by now. And she talks a lot about spirituality, and it's religious. I mean, it's just for people that get turned off easily by that stuff. It's very, very religious in some areas. Unless it's hyper religious, I don't get turned off by that stuff. But there are Bible verses and stuff in it that she talks about. I always like, because I don't pull my spirituality necessarily from biblical sources, I try to really like listen to the message that's there, not just, you can gain inspiration from anywhere, and that's not to say that I'm negative about the Bible. That's just, not where I pull 100% of my inspiration from. That makes sense. Like, I pull it from many different areas, including Christianity. But I do like some of the Bible verses. What was the one that she referenced? She's talking about her not her first communion. She's talking, her confirmation. And she had to get up, and she was really resistant to God, or believing that there was a God at that point in her life. It's kind of that. It's kind of a book about her, like, through these horrible tragedies that she goes through, kind of like, how she comes to terms with her own spiritual beliefs, which I find that really interesting, Like, you think about that, like, somebody that's gone through a situation like that, how do they find their own spiritual outlet, When you find out that your entire childhood was a lie and that your dad was a serial killer, like, and I will tell you one thing that I really appreciate about it is, like, she's so respectful of the families and of the victims and the victims themselves in the book. Like, there's a part of the book where she has a family member that passes away, and it's like a huge part in the book because of how it happens. And like, her dad's reaction to it is like, he's just like really, really sad, and it hits him hard. And she says in there something to the effect of, like, it would hit me later that he had done the same thing to 7 families. Like, he had been the cause of that. Like, she's very aware. Yeah, I think that's the thing I would say about her. Like, her awareness is like kind of unhinging at times. It was interesting when I was reading, like, the articles about... So I got online and I was reading all these articles about Dennis Rader, the BTK killer. And I found some article that was like, top 10 wives of serial killers. And this is so funny. Like, she was number 2. Like, kind of being... The article was kind of like... It was kind of like, who are the top 10 wives of serial killers that were like total idiots? They didn't know that their husbands were serial killers, so to speak. But what was so... She was like number 2, but what was funny, that number 3 was Julie Baumeister from the Fox Hollow Farms that I went to here in Indianapolis. The Baumeister man killer. She was like number 3 on there. And, but this article was interesting because it really let the wife, I can't remember what her name is. Shoot, it's on the tip of my tongue. Of the BTK killer, she like really lets him have it, or like they really let her have it in this article, because she like found a poem that he had written about the victim, and she even said to him one time something like they read notes that he had written, and she said, "Oh, he writes just like you," or "his spelling's just bad like yours," or whatever. And he was like, "Oh, what a coincidence," or something. And then they even played like footage of him calling the police station with his actual voice on the air. And so they're like, well, why wouldn't she have picked up that it was her husband? What's interesting in reading the book, okay, and it kind of comes out over time, is that Dennis Rader was aggressive and kind of violent to his family. But they always kind of like, play it down, there was this, like, incident that happened, like, before this funeral that they're gonna go to for this family member, and, like, somebody, like, pounds on the table, and because they get into this argument, and the dishes fly, and the table, like, the leg comes out from their table, and, like, he goes crazy, right? And he, like, stands up and starts choking her brother, like, choking her brother. And, like, after it, her mom is, this is from the book, right, that I'm reading. Her mom is like, it's just been a really tough week. You haven't been here, like, to her, because she's at college at the time. I'm like, tough week? You're strangling your kid. I don't know. There's just a lot of that in the book. Like, the wife makes a lot of excuses. And, you know, you have to think, reading the book, that it's the girl's mom, right, that she's writing about. So, I don't know. Maybe at some point she does come out and say, I don't know how my mom didn't know. Like, she had to have known, you know? But I'm not there yet if she says that in the book. I don't know. It's just really interesting, you know? You know, it leaves open this question of how well do you really know people, I think, sometimes. Oh, man. I can't believe I slept so well. Now I don't know if I want a donut or if I want an order of hash browns. Because that sounds equally as good. And today I have not really a whole lot to do. I have like this sober commitment earlier in the evening, but it won't take long. And then, I don't know, Alex, I think, works late tonight. Yeah, he works late. And then on Friday night, he has a friend visiting whose uncle just passed away. And so, like, Alex is really good friends with this guy. I know him too, but I don't know him really well. Like, we met him, like, going out and stuff years and years and years ago, and he dated a friend of ours. But, like, Alex was like, do you want to go out with us? I think Sarah might go too. And I was like, oh, you guys just go. I don't really care. I don't want to go out. And then, Saturday night is our friend that had a baby not too long ago. It's her birthday. So she's having, like, a birthday party, but her birthday parties are kind of fun because, like, for me, they're kind of fun because it's always, like, her family. It's not, like, you know, 50 friends. It's, like, her family and, like, 2 friends. And it's always just, like, a lot of food and people hanging around. And I love her family. She's got a huge family. Like, she has a huge family. And so it's just a lot of fun. And her brother is a chef that owns a restaurant here in town, and he always caters all the rest of the parties. So the food is always, like, fantastic and stuff that you would never guess. So we're going to that on Saturday night, and then Alex and Sarah are going to go out afterwards, and he asked me if I wanted to go. And I was like, I don't know. We'll probably just come home and do a live stream. I said I may feel like going out, but we'll see. It takes a lot for me to, like, want to go out these days. Like, I haven't been out in a long time. Like, if he wanted to go out and he didn't have anybody else to go out, I would go out. But, I mean, he has Sarah, and they'll have a good time. And then we're doing the countdown to Miami. I talked to Melissa today about it for a long time. We're so excited about it. We were planning all of our stuff, and she's like, have you started packing yet? I go, no, we're 2 weeks out, you know? She's like, when do you usually start packing? I said, oh, the day of. She goes, I know, me too. She was like, but then I always have, like, some breakdown because I, like, freak out. And she was like, that Jason said, can we avoid the breakdown this year for this trip? She started laughing. She goes, has Alex started packing? I go, oh, Alex is, like, done. I said, Alex has every outfit. Alex literally, he modeled outfits for me yesterday. 2 days ago. He has every outfit picked out for Ultra, with the shoes, shorts, shirt, hat, and jewelry. He has it all like figured out. And I think he may have taken a picture of all of it too, like for each outfit, so he knows like what he's wearing each day. He is so hilarious. I love that about him so much. And so yeah. I can't believe it's Thursday already. It feels like this week is just like flying by. You know, it's interesting because I was like thinking about how long this vlog is. Well, tonight it's going to be short. But I was thinking about like how the majority of my vlogs now are like an hour. But that I think it was like 6 months ago or something. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. That I was joking and I was like, I did a really long vlog, right? And my vlog was like an hour at that time. But then my vlogs like got to be like an hour and a half. And then they just started consistently being between an hour and a half. But I really can't remember how long they used to be, like on average, like 30 to 40 minutes. I mean, I really can't remember. Do you guys remember how long they used to be on average? I don't remember. Hi. Oh, man. Boo Radley was so cute this morning. Tucker and Pee-Pee went right back up to bed. And Boo Radley was like kind of hanging around downstairs while I was like filling my water thing and stuff. And I was like, what is it, Boo? And he just kind of looked up at me with the sweetest little face. I was like, well, what is it, Boo? And his tail started shaking, and I started walking to the door, and I said, do you have to go potty again? And so we went outside, and he like walked to the end of he walks real funny, and he walked to the end of the walkway, and he like turned and looked at me. And I think he thought we were like going somewhere, like how he and I went to the vet that one day, just the two of us. And when we found out that he had the backwards cough or whatever it's called, the upside down cough. I've had so many people tell me that their dogs have the same thing since I found that out, which is crazy to me. But anyway, so I just kind of stood there for a second and watched him. He is one of the sweetest dogs I've ever known in my, he's just such a sweet little thing. And he just kind of smelled the air and smelled stuff, and then he kind of just came back up the walkway, and then he just was like, okay, I'm ready to go back in. And then I opened the door, and he turned and looked at me, and then he like walked up the stairs. He's so sweet. Oh, man. We're supposed to have like I was looking at the weather. It's supposed to be like in the early 60s to late 50s. It's 53 right now in Indianapolis. I mean, that's nice for Indianapolis in March. And then it's supposed to drop the next couple days. But tonight, there's a wind advisory that's supposed to be like horrible. It's supposed to be like from 4 to 10 p.m. My friend Valerie has been out of town now for way too long. Valerie, you know that. She always says she's going to visit like the town that she's from for like 2 or 3 days. And then she's gone for like 3 weeks. I'm being kind of sarcastic right now. I'm just happy that she enjoys her life. But anyway, so Valerie is coming home tonight. She texted me yesterday. I'm excited to see her. So we may, I don't know, we may meet up at the casino later or something. I don't know about that. Or get something to dinner. I don't know what Alex is doing tonight. He doesn't usually do anything on Thursdays. Oh my God, the gas station is packed. Oh my God, all the way around the corner and everything. So anyway, if you guys know how long my vlogs used to be, can you let me know? Because I would really like to know that. I think they were consistently about 40 minutes, 30 or 40 minutes, weren't they? I really honestly don't remember the evolution of the vlog. It's mornings like this, honestly, that I like to like go home and like when I do get up early and sit there, like that's like a really great time. If it wasn't raining outside, I would definitely go outside and do my meditations because well, I guess I could sit on the front porch because it's not like wet where it's underneath the thing. But it's definitely like mornings like this, and especially like outside, that I feel very centered and very balanced and very peaceful. I mean, it's just really hard not to be peaceful when it's like still and, you know, really beautiful and you're rested and it always helps me to read the meditations then and kind of like go through my gratitude list, you know, and this whole idea of a gratitude list is interesting to me. I do want to say this really quick. Somebody commented on my vlog and said, why do you continue to go to meetings if you've been sober so long? Like, don't you have coping skills and tools? And then and it wasn't a nasty comment, it was a nice comment, and they were like, I don't know anything about AA. I have no problem like doing a whole like video on here or talking about at length on my vlog about like getting sober or why you keep on going to meetings and stuff like that, but I feel like it would be super repetitive because I talk about recovery on here so much. But the small part of it is that it's recommended that you go to meetings, you know, for the rest of your life. The people that I know, okay, that have 40 years of sobriety, like maybe they're not going to 7 meetings a week, but they go to 1 or 2 meetings a week. They have sponsors, they're sponsorable. Being sponsorable, being willing to have a sponsor, somebody that can guide you and that you call and ask for, you know, help and things like that and suggestions, is basically saying I'm open to the journey, I'm open to the experience of working, right? Going to meetings is about continuing to get your medication for your addiction. It's also about being there for the newcomer. It's also about being there for the person that walks through the door that needs you. Like, because you have to remember, like, the 12th step is about having had a spiritual awakening as well as all these steps, you know, and then it talks about carrying this message. And it's about that. So it's about carrying this message to newcomers as well. Well, if the old timers aren't there, the people that have been sober for a while, to tell their stories, to share their stories or share their experience, strength, and hope of what we've gone through, it would be all newcomers, you know. The people that I know, that I'm friends with or I look up to in recovery, that have the most well-adjusted lives, that have the healthiest relationships, that are successful in every aspect of their life, that continue to grow, that are people that I look up to, not because they're perfect human beings, but because they own their truth, they own their mistakes, they take responsibility, they learn from it, they continue to grow, and they're just really cool people, are friends of mine in recovery that have 20, 30, 40 years and continue to go to meetings. They continue to sponsor people. I mean, like this weekend is the state convention. They continue to go to the state convention. You know, they do things that are really healthy for their sobriety. I want that. So I will continue to do that. Not to mention that, you know, like there's this term called emotional sobriety, and emotional sobriety is about like, I think this is the real misconception with addiction, right? Is that addiction is about the drug or the drink, and addiction is really not about alcohol or drugs. It really isn't. Alcohol and drugs are a symptom of the disease of addiction, and the disease manifests itself in many, many different ways. So once you put the drink down, once you put the drug down, there's still like I was like restarting the car and it like went forward and the camera fell back. So like once you take the drink and the drug away, there's still all this underlying stuff going on, right? So it's just a toolbox. It's just a way of living. It's a design for living. The 12 steps are designed for living, but you don't just like reach the end of the 12th step and then you stop working on steps, you know, and stop going to meetings and you stop having a sponsor. It actually worries me for people a lot that, you know, they get sober and they go to 12-step meetings or, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I'm totally open to other people getting sober other ways as well. What scares me for people is people that have nothing in their lives. They have no 12-step program, no counseling, no spiritual outlet whatsoever. So really, you're an addict or an alcoholic that had all of these issues, right? Because when you truly understand, it's not about, I mean, like, we use for multifaceted reasons. Like, it's not just about, like, the drink or the drug. Like, either we have a predisposition for it or it's about underlying issues, which is why in recovery we do things like inventory and we look at inventory of resentments and fear. I mean, there's a reason why the 12 steps work, and it has changed millions and millions of people's lives, right? Because it's basically a rehaul of your entire life. It's cleaning up the wreckage of your past, finding a higher power or some understanding of your own, and, you know, continuing to live a right life. And it's like, you're not, like, when people come to me and they're like, oh, but Peter's sober, so he should have been like this perfect person. That's not really what it is. It's about learning to grow over time, right? But it scares me for people that don't have that, because there was a point in my life that I didn't have that. Like, I didn't have any form of emotional sobriety, which was what I was talking about. It's this term, right? That once you take the drink and the drug away, like, how sober are you really? Like, how right-minded are you? Are you open to the lesson? Are you open to learning things in your life? And so that's why I continue to go to meetings, because there are things I need to hear all the time, you know? The other day, I was talking about my meeting from Tuesday night when I was in here the other night, like, you know, the topic was, like, prioritizing sobriety and, like, what happens when you, like, get your real life back and you get a job and all this kind of stuff, right? Well, I need to hear that sometimes because, you know, it's easy for me to want to put things above my sobriety. And what I was always taught was that my sobriety needs to come above everything. Because if I am not sober and I don't have my sobriety, I'm not going to have anything else. Like, I mean, my life is really not, I'm not going to be, if I'm not sober and I'm out there using, right, I'm incapable of having healthy relationships with people. I'm not going to be taking a look at learning and growing in my life. You know, I probably would not have many friends, and my family would want nothing to do with me anymore, you know. Many of my family members have made that very clear to me in the past, that if I ever started using again, they just wouldn't be in my life. So I would lose a lot, you know. Not to mention that I would be, I mean, I just cannot imagine going through that again, you know? And it's been so long, like, I can't, like, I've had friends of mine that have gone back out after 20 years, and I think, oh my God, like, the last time that you were using, you were like 20, right? And now you're, I don't know, it's bizarre to me. Very, very scary. But I love them. So that's why I keep on going to meetings. And that's another reason, you know, is that my friends that have gone back out there, the first thing that goes is always meetings and sponsorship. And so there's three sides of the triangle in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's steps, service, and fellowship. And steps are working the service, or steps are working steps, you know. I talk enough about that on here. Service is giving back. And that can be in many different ways, you know, from sponsorship to chairing a meeting to having a service position to whatever. And then fellowship. And fellowship is, you know, having friends and doing social things with people in sobriety. And it's about having, you know, all three of those, you know, balanced out. It's like there's a reason why it's like balanced that way, you know, so that you're getting what you need, you know, and the healthiest version of yourself that you can possibly be. somebody commented on my Peter Monn video yesterday, and they said, because it's just real funny, it was silly. It was real silly. And they said, I'm so glad that you did this video because it shows that people in sobriety can have a lot of fun, you know? And there's a saying that is, well, it's from the text, and it says, we are not a glum lot. And like, Tanya and I always laugh about it because like this meeting that we go to, like, people think we're silly. They just think, you know, like, Tanya and I, our humor is silly and whatever, and we'll say something silly. And Tanya and I always go, we're not a glum lot, you know? And, but it's true, we're not. Like, sobriety is hands down the greatest gift I was ever given in my entire life. And some people will never receive that gift because they'll never be introduced to it. You know, and I think about that, like, I think the last statistic I read was something like every 9 minutes somebody is dying of like a heroin or opioid overdose in our country right now. Well, that's really scary to think that while I've been filming this, 4 or 5 people have overdosed and died of an opioid overdose. Like, that's really scary. And we're not talking enough about this right now in our country. People are still dying of alcoholism in our country, you know? People are dying of other overdoses, and it's sad to me. And it's the greatest gift I've ever been given in my entire life, and it is totally a gift, you know? And I don't want to ever lose that gift. And so for me not to lose that gift, I have to continue to go to meetings. I have to be reminded of where I came from. I have to be willing to give back what was so, like, kindly given to me, you know? And as long as I do that, I think that I'll be okay and I'll continue to grow. But anyway, that comment was so nice to me because I was like, I pinned it actually, and then I commented back on it, and I said, I'm glad that you said this, meant a lot to me that you said this. I think I said this melted my heart or something, because, and it did, because it's like, I want people to know that a sober life is fun, that a sober life is amazing, that a sober life is, it can be so much. You have no idea when you're in the thick of your addiction. I can remember being so afraid to get sober because I thought to myself, I don't know what my life will be like if I'm not using. And it wasn't like, oh, I love to drink, or oh, I love to get high, or I love to eat a pill, or I love to do this. It was like, I really didn't know what my life was going to look like without that. I was like terrified of getting sober, right? Had I ever known what my life would truly look like down the road, I would have gotten sober a lot sooner than I did. And I feel blessed for getting sober as early as I did. Hell, I mean, I got sober at 22 and a half. There's a lot of friends of mine that got sober at 40, you know, or my mom, 51. I know friends of mine that got sober at 60. So, I mean, people are coming in later and later, and I think it's great. I think, you know, but that's a lot of why I keep on going to meetings. And when I wasn't going to meetings, I had no emotional sobriety. Like, you know, I was not thinking straight. I wasn't being kind to people. I just wasn't, I was not in a great state of mind, you know? And I don't ever want to go back to that. I have never. That was worse to me than, there were periods, I wouldn't say, like, I mean, I had a lot of fun during that time too, and that was like the earliest years of Alex and I being together. But there was, and just to clarify, because in case there's any confusion about that, I didn't stop going to meetings because of Alex. It had nothing to do with that. I stopped going because when my mom passed away, I became very angry at my higher power. And I also kind of felt like, what is my sobriety? Like, not me being sober, but 12-step meetings. Like, what are they doing for me? And I've shared this story on here before, but I got in an argument with somebody in a meeting. And he's like a dear, dear friend of mine today. And I just actually was talking about this because he and I sat in our small group together on Tuesday. But I used it all as an excuse to blame recovery and blame my higher power and be like, screw those people, I'm not going back, they don't know me, and I don't need them. And I walked away for like 4 years, and but for the grace of God, did not pick up and use. I don't know how. But it was the most miserable 4 years of my entire life, like hands down. Even more miserable than when I was using, because when I was using, see, I had an answer. Like, if I was numb, I could drink or use a drug. If I was angry, I could drink or use a drug. If I wanted to party or have fun, I could do that. But I had none of that. So I just literally was like all these feelings and emotions that I didn't know what to do with inside, that I was subduing. And I didn't have anybody to talk to about it, because Tanya and I were still friends, but I wasn't really talking to her about stuff. And she was scared to death for me, I think. I found out later, you know, that I was going to pick up and go back out. And, you know, I look at it, I think it's crazy. I don't know. I was terrified. I was terrified of picking up, but I was terrified of coming back in to the rooms. And, I haven't told this story on here for a long time, so I'll tell it. This went into a whole other direction, but that's fine. But tonight on the vlog, I was sitting at home one day, and it was in January, and I had made a list of things that I needed to do. Things with Alex and I were not great, and I was not happy in my life, and I just was not in a good place. And I made this list, and I said in the list, like, laundry, vacuum, do, you know, fold clothes or something. And I got halfway through the list, and I just started bawling. I was like, I can't do this, I can't function. I didn't even know what I was doing with my life, right? I don't know if you've ever been there at that point in your life, but it's like, you feel like everything's falling apart. Like, it's so far past any kind of depression at that point, or anxiety, or anything, any label that you would put on it. You literally feel like your life is completely falling apart. And I'm not a person that's ever felt suicidal, so that wasn't an outlet for me. And I knew that the one thing I had held on to all those years was that I had never picked up. Even though I had stopped going to meetings and didn't have sobriety, I held so tightly to the fact that I hadn't picked up. And I just lost it. I just felt like my life is falling apart. I don't know what's going on. It's just, my life's a mess, you know? And, have you ever had those moments of clarity where you're like, what's going on? This is why today, when I talk about peace of mind, or serenity, or stillness, or being grateful for the small things like my dog, and people think that that's BS that I say that. There's so many of you out there that really are know that that's what my heart speaks of, and that means the world to me. But every once in a while I'll get a comment, and somebody will say something to the effect of I'm so tired of you talking about the peace of mind and whatever. But see, when you don't have that, right? When you don't have that peace of mind in your life, it is that important to you. I didn't have that for so long, so it's something that I'm super passionate about today. Just making a gratitude list on a daily basis, or having peace of mind, or having serenity in my life is so vital to me today, right? So I had this breakdown, and I wish you guys could see the sky. It is so pretty right now. But anyway, I picked up the phone and I called Tanya, and I said, I was bawling, and she was like, are you okay? And I go, will you take me to a meeting? And she was like, absolutely. She's like, I've been praying for 4 years for you to ask me that. So I went over to her house that night. We went to this meeting, and I've told this story on here before. I'm not gonna tell the whole story tonight, but it was really weird because it was a snowstorm that night. And the meeting that we went to, well, so it was a Tuesday night, which is when we go to my home group now, which had been my home group before too, that I had stopped going to. And Tanya was like, do you want to go there? And I was like, oh, no, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. So we went to this clubhouse, and the snow was so bad that there was only 6 or 8 people at this meeting, including us. But there was this other woman that I knew, this girl, who she had stopped going to meetings too. And this was her first meeting back. And it was just so weird, and everything felt so connected. And I just I literally walked in, and as soon as I introduced myself in the meeting, I was like, I'm back. Like, I felt it. I just felt like I'm back. And I felt safe, and I felt back at home again. And I was so happy. And so that night when I drove Tanya home, I just told this on here not too long ago, because I said to her back at her house, and Eric was laughing, her husband was laughing at me and stuff. I said, do you want to go to a meeting tomorrow? And I was like, because I was ready to do the deal, you know? And she was like, no. She was like, Peter, you haven't been going to meetings for 4 years, but I've been consistently going. Like, I don't need to go to a meeting every day. She goes, but I think it would be great for you. So I went to a meeting the next day. And this is how God works in my life. And so I went to this noon meeting and in this clubhouse, and it was packed. And there was like, every chair was taken in the room. So there was like 30, 40 people in this room. And so I sat next to this woman, and when I sat down, she said, could you move like one over? She's like, I'm saving that chair for somebody. And I was like, yeah, sure. She ended up becoming a good friend of mine. But anyway, so the meeting starts, and in walks the dude that I had gotten into a fight with, that I left the meeting for, right? Or I left meetings for, that I used the excuse, that was why. And he walks in, and she's holding the chair for him, right? And he sees me, and he sees her, and he like walks over and sits down. And so we're sitting there, and he like kind of leans over, and he says something. He's like, can we talk after the meeting? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, not being able to focus on the meeting, right? So anyway, we go through this meeting, and afterwards he pulls me outside, and we're talking, and he looked at me and he said, I think I owe you an amends. And he said, I don't know where you've been, but you don't know. He goes, I went back out there, I almost died. And I used our argument as a fight for a long time, you know? And I said, I owe you an amends too. And we like talked and hugged it out. And that's like why I keep on going back to meetings. Like that right there, you know? That blessing. And now he's like one of my dearest friends, you know? And it really never had anything to do with him anyway, you know? Like, I mean, it had nothing to do with him. That wasn't about him. He wasn't in that. That was about my anger, my frustration, my sadness, my lack of emotion. That was what that was all about. He had nothing to do with that. That's why when I look at like really, really miserable people, you know, it's like, you're taking it out on the world. Like, bring it in. Love yourself. Like, love yourself. Get connected with yourself, you know? I don't want to be that miserable person anymore that I used to be back in the day. It's not a way to live. It's just not. So then that night on my way home, there's this website, and it's called XA. So I have been listening to these, right? So I wasn't going to meetings, but I would listen to speakers and leads, and it's called a lead, and that's when somebody tells their story of sobriety, right? Like how it had been for them when they were using, how they got sober and what it's like now. You tell your story. Well, there's this website. It's xa-speakers.org. You can also just look up on YouTube like AA speakers or NA speakers, Let's Narcotics Anonymous, or CA, Cocaine Anonymous, or Heroin Anonymous is a really big deal now, or any 12-step program. And so anyway, I have been listening to like a lot of leads, like as I would drive around. Like I used to listen to audiobooks. Well, I listen to audiobooks, but I used to listen to a lot of leads too. I don't listen to as many anymore. From time to time I do, but not as many as I used to. I loved it because in the early days, we used to listen to speaker tapes, right? So there would be like cassette tapes that people would pass around, or they would bring home from a convention or something, and then you could like, you know, listen to it in your car, and I loved it. Or CDs is like time changed, whatever. So I was listening to this lead, and it was by this girl that had gotten sober young, and she had been sober for like 15 years, but she got sober at like 15 or something. And she said this thing in the lead, and she said, it's hard to fall off the wagon when you're sitting in the middle of it. And it just hit me like a brick in the face, you know, when she said that. it's hard to fall off the wagon when you're sitting in the middle of it. And I thought, what a truism, you know? And I don't want to fall off the wagon anymore. And so, you know, figuratively or literally. And so I decided that if I was going to come back, like, this all happened on my drive home. Like, I listened to the lead. It was like an hour. I took some time before I drove home, whatever. And I made this decision that I was coming back, and I was coming back like full force. Like, I was going to do the deal. And I did. And I called my sponsor, who had kept on, you know, calling me through the years and whatever, and talked to him and scheduled a day to meet up before I even got home that night, I think. And went home and told Alex, you know, that I'm back in this thing, and I don't want to go out as much. We were going out a lot. And I was like, I just don't want to go out as much anymore. And I had like 2 or 3 friends, like women that I was friends with that I typically only saw if we would go out. And I called all 3 of them the next day and told them that I wasn't going to be going out as much anymore, but that they were really important to me. And I would love to keep on, you know, seeing them. And all 3 of them were like, oh yeah, sure, we'll keep in touch. Only one has, and that one person is Melissa. And I think that our friendship, like, we don't